Welcome to the I Hate Critics movie review podcast. I'm professional film critic Sean Patrick. With me is Jeff.
Hello.
And look who's here for 2 weeks in a row. It's Bob,
Hello, thanks for having me again.
our executive producer, joining us here to talk about some movies we'll get to in just a moment. But I guess the big topic going around right now, and Jeff kind of raised this in our chat, is the idea about why people aren't going to the movies. This movie, of course, that we're going to talk about later, the big movie of the weekend, barely finished number one, came in at the one of the lowest openings for a Memorial Day weekend in history, and this is the second big movie, I guess, this in this sort of summer period where it's come up short at the box office, the other one being The Fall Guy. So we'll start with you, Jeff. What is it that you think is going on?
I think it's a lot of things, not just one, thing. A lot of people have brought up that they think, the prices of everything has gone up just kind of, I think, started as a reaction during the height of COVID to supply chain issues and things like that. So everybody was using that as an excuse to bump up their prices. And I know a lot of people are calling it inflation, but when companies are, posting record profits, then, it's not inflation. It's just corporate greed.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that if you look at it like that, then the recent post by some major retailers saying, "Oh, we are lowering our prices, to bring people back to the stores," that just shows that, that. And when people say I can't afford to go to the movies because bread is $17.50 loaf, which it's not. I'm just exaggerating, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but when they're saying stuff like that, I think that has a big part of it. My major thing though is the streaming window is like 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm old enough to remember when the movie Who's That Girl with Madonna came out. It was a huge fucking deal that it was only 6 months before it was released on VHS. The movie bombed, and then within 6 months they announced it going to VHS. And I remember that being a big deal because you just, it was a year before things went to VHS in the 80s. And even then it was mostly just for rental because the actual tapes themselves were $89.99. And unless you really, really, really wanted a movie, that was a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, and my first copy of Black Christmas was $59.99 at Suncoast. But worth it. It's the best movie ever. But I think that's the biggest thing personally is the fact that companies, for some reason, they just can't fathom giving a movie a month to 2 months to start to get its legs. Everything has to be, if it doesn't make $1 billion in the first weekend, it's a flop. I just don't, that pisses me off, honestly, because it's like, remember, back not even that long ago, movies were all about the word of mouth. And how can you have word of mouth if it opens on a Friday and it's, going to streaming 2 weeks later?
Mm-hmm.
There's also the theaters that will not say anything about people being on their phones the whole time or talking or creating a disturbance. When I went to see Fury, I think I talked about a guy a couple weeks ago where I was the first person in a screening of a movie, and I went in and some creepy old dude had gotten the seat right next to me. And
Yeah.
I had a hunch that it was just the kind of guy who sees that somebody's sitting there and is hoping it's a young girl he can hit on. The exact same guy was in the seat next to my seat at Furiosa today.
Jeez.
So I went and changed my seat. I was like, I'm just going to change my seat. And it's stuff like that I don't know if that's a factor or what. I don't know. Somebody said bring back ushers. um I would love that. You go to some places like Alamo Draft House, and if you're on your phone, you're out and you're banned and you can't go back. um Last Picture House here in town, they're like, put your phones away or you'll be asked to leave. And never seen a phone out during a movie, although those seem to be the movies that people really want to go see.
Right.
And they make a special trip. Like I have to make a special trip to go there because of my work schedule. And I'm certainly going to be pissed off if somebody's sitting there on their phone, like in Scary Movie. So,
Bob, what's your take on this particular topic?
I mean, Jeff kind of nailed every possible scenario, but it's a combination of prices being higher and the streaming. My son wanted to see Fall Guy really, really bad. We were going to go see that as a matinee and then Furiosa. And then, what did you know? It's on Amazon. So we didn't have to go. I feel like that was just a few weeks back. It wasn't even that long. And that's the biggest thing. And then it's just the lack of event movies. Obviously last year with Barbie and Oppenheimer, you had that, but we're so saturated with the IP stuff that those audiences are getting less and less. Everything, Marvel's everywhere. Disney's got Star Wars all over the place. Every year, every other year, there's a Fast and the Furious movie, and I feel like they do a little worse every time, or they're probably going to start to. Same with Mission Impossible. I don't know. I just it's not enough original content that is getting the attention of, where everybody's excited to go see something. Like that weekend with Barbie and Oppenheimer, that hadn't really existed in a long time, and that was so cool to see again. And nothing's really been that since, or even close.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's, it's prices, it's streaming, and then the lack of original ideas as a studio big budget picture. And at the same time, it's, if your movies are failing or not, like I know Furiosa is a franchise and an IP, but I'm sure that costs a lot of money to make, and if it's not making the money back, it's a hard thing to invest. Like if Oppenheimer bombed, that would have been a very expensive loss. So it's A24 is not big enough to bring that event movie that's also creative and new and a must see. It's only going to grab the nerds like us, and I just feel like that's what's lacking along with the streaming. I mean, it really is too easy to see a movie, and I hate it. I think the experience is way different.
Absolutely.
Fall Guy was kind of boring watching on TV. I'm sure it was a lot more fun in the theater.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And I've had that experience. We've talked about it over COVID, where what I think is probably a good movie, but I couldn't get in the mindset because I was easy to get distracted. And I don't know. It's a shame because even like watching The Strangers last week, as bad as it was better seeing in the theater than at home. Now, in fairness, I could have got up and just walked away and been done. So that would have been nice, but it's still
like Sean.
Yeah. But it is a different experience. I definitely like it more in the theater than I would have at home.
I'm going to read you a tweet I put out just a couple days ago regarding the box office. It was regarding this weekend in 2013, the top 4 movies. Fast 6 opened to $97 million. The Hangover 3, $41 million. Week 2 of Star Trek Into Darkness, $37 million. And a movie called Epic that I don't have any memory of opened to over $33 million. That's 3 movies in one weekend opening to more than $30 million. And the second week of a blockbuster going over $40 million. Now, that's just 11 years ago. I don't know
Yeah.
I don't exactly know what that means, but it feels like it means something.
I I personally think that the the fact that like everything, including movie theaters, are just being they're just monopolies. You know, somebody said they heard a rumor about Cinemark and AMC merging, and I'm like, that would leave only AMC or Cinemark. You know, I mean, not there's not a bunch of different chains out there anymore, and
Mhm.
I feel like I do feel that stuff like the Last Picture House is probably going to become the norm, where you have to, you have people who are serious about the movies and the theatrical experience being the ones who um, kind of bring that back. Alamo Drafthouse. Um, there's those people who started those are serious about the movies and they want the theatrical experience to live on. As so do I. I mean, the biggest thing I missed about COVID was not being able to go to the movies. I lived in LA for a year and I never once got to go to the New Beverly
Hmm.
and see classic movies on the big screen. Um, I There are a lot of things that are bad about going to the movies now. Yes, concessions are insane, but if you join, like we have Cinemark and Last Picture House here, and you can get memberships at both. Um, because I go to the movies so much, I see a lot of stuff I would not see if it weren't for the show. Furiosa being among them because I'm just not a Mad Max fan. Um, that kind of stuff, though, I go enough that I'm platinum status at the theater. So all my, my concessions are 25% off, whatever I get. It's that kind of thing. If people are, I know people are bringing their own stuff in. I, but what is it about the experience for most people? Is it just the cost of a ticket? I saw a lot of that discourse this weekend, where somebody was saying, "Oh, I'm in the middle of bumblefuck Indiana, and my tickets are $6.99." And they never answered. Like I said, do you have more than one theater? Do you have several theaters? Or because we have two, and they're both comparable price. It's $11 to go see a movie if you're seeing the standard format after the matinee. Um, and I understand that the theaters don't keep that money. They make their money in concessions, and that's fine. Everybody's got to make a living. Um, but is it the cost? Is just the cost? Because I feel like that's some people. It's just the cost. Um, I don't think there's one answer though. That's
Well,
what gets
I
me.
mean, you made a good point with places like the Alamo Draft House and Last Picture House. If you look at back to the music industry, you used to be able to get all that stuff in Best Buy and Walmart and everything. Now record stores are doing better than they've ever done. Because there's more of a niche. You're getting the diehard fan. They're just the casual fan is on Spotify. The casual fan's at Netflix. It's on Amazon. It's, Peacock, whatever. And how do you get the casual fan back into the movie theater? That's where they need to be focusing on if they want these big chains to be successful. Otherwise, you're going to go after the film nerds and they'll show up. And I do think places like the Last Picture House will be more successful, provided a Cinemark can't shut it down. I don't think it will be able to.
No, I don't. I think they're just two different business models.
Mhm.
Like Cinemark is never going to show the People's Joker.
Right.
I mean, that kind of movie needs an art house or needs enough people behind it. Um, I think that we got Beau is Afraid at Cinemark for the simple fact that Ari Aster made two very popular horror movies.
Right.
So, otherwise, I think if he had kind of bombed with those two, it would have had to have been at a place like the Last Picture House or Alamo.
Well, absolutely. But Cinemark does have the Cine Art stuff where they do try to compete with. I know we had the Bruin View years ago, and that was how they got shut down. One, I think bad business decisions, but two, they started showing the same movies in Cinemark as they did there, and there's things you can do, if you're smart enough to want to take a risk, but I think it's stupid. Movies, if they both do well, that's good for everybody.
Yeah.
But again, it's just how do you get the casual fan back there? How do you get the country music fan to come to the theater?
I'm going to say something about Furiosa. Excuse me. I think anybody who thought that Furiosa was going to be a blockbuster is somebody who is like one of those hardcore Mad Max fans that got mad at me for not liking Fury Road enough. I think the main thing, and this is not me speaking. This is not anything I would ever think. I think the main reason that Furiosa was never really set to be a massive blockbuster is because guys don't want to fuck Furiosa. I know. That's horrible to say. I understand. But and I think Anya Taylor-Joy is an incredibly attractive woman. But I'm saying that Furiosa as a character is not the idea of what a typical boy teenager who goes to the movie wants to fuck.
But they'll say they want a badass. They'll say they want a badass, but when it comes right down to it, if their masculinity is threatened at all, that's like a no go.
Yeah, exactly. And the character is not intending to be that way. The character doesn't intend to make you want to be attracted to her. That's not the point. That's not even the point of the movie. It's not a point that I'm trying to make about her. I'm not saying she's unattractive because she's not. I'm saying that typically the type of teenage boy that helps make a 4-quadrant blockbuster, part of that is that prurient interest that just isn't there with a movie like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I just, to piggyback off what Sean said, the number of movies out there where the guys want to fuck the leading lady is all over. You can get them on your TV regularly, not to mention, anything else. So I think that plays a role too.
I think that the reason everybody kind of misremembers that Fury Road was just some, like juggernaut is the fact that it was nominated for like 11 Oscars.
Mm-hmm.
And I certainly didn't see it in the theater, but again, that's not that type of movie isn't something that appeals to me generally. But the fact that, it did, I think it was projected to do 40 million and it did 31. I mean, 31 is where I would put a Mad Max movie on opening weekend.
It seems like the high end, considering the lack of particular types of audiences that I just mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Well, and again, it's a Memorial Day weekend. The typical movies that do really well that are Star Wars and Marvel movies, and I think Memorial Day weekend, since Star Wars came out in '77. A Memorial Day weekend, I think that is what kind of makes everybody think that it is a blockbuster weekend, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
They tend to release movies like that on Memorial Day weekend.
The weekend I described in 2013 is the weekend before Memorial Day. That was where we had $100 million movie, a $40 million movie, a $44 million movie, and a $30 million movie, and then then Memorial Day hit, and we had 2 more $100 million movies come out. I think the reason this is mainly a temporary issue, and that Furiosa does not reflect an actual problem with the blockbuster, is the fact that we're still coming out of the lack of product that was produced during the strike. There's a lot of movies that got pushed back. There's a lot of productions that got pushed back. like I said, a Memorial Day weekend where there are only 2 major releases is an abnormality. Because, like I said, just 11 years ago, there were at least 6 different options for you to go for a big name movie.
Well, and it is cyclical too. If when you go to the theater, you get to see the trailers for the other movies coming up, and if you aren't there for a while, and now you got to be aware of it online or whatever else. So the number of movies I find out about because I'm watching the trailers in the theater, I other than when I was on the show regularly, and then you guys say, "Oh, this is what's next week," and I'd be like, "Oh, okay." But usually it was the theater was how I would find out, and other than the ones that are repeated over and over again. But when you're not there, you don't see it, and certain movies market better than others.
I was doing a radio hit where the host asked me, hey, what's the big movies that are coming this summer? And it's like, why can't I think of a title? Because what is the big title this summer? Like, what is that title that everybody's Deadpool? I guess, yeah, Deadpool and Wolverine. But name another one. Give me another one. Give me a July 4th release that you're clamoring for because
Maxine.
But I mean, Maxine's not going to be a blockbuster. You know that.
I know.
There isn't one. Like in the past, you could go, well, we've got a Transformers movie, we've got an Avengers movie, we've got the Mission Impossible, we've got Top Gun. All this is coming up this summer, every weekend lined up. Where to the point where like studios are like, I got to move my movie so it doesn't get run over by this movie and this movie, and that is not the case this summer.
No, and I'm going to say this too about Maxine. It didn't have a release date until like a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
They were still like working on it, and that's what one of the things that gets me about this whole release dates and all that is you get a release date before you have a script, and in a lot of cases, and I think that's something that hurts quality for sure. Which then people are like, well, I didn't like that movie as much as I liked Endgame, so maybe I'll just wait. And it's the business, I think, that's hurting the business in a way.
Oh, for sure.
Where it's just a business instead of artistic. Ari Aster didn't get a release date before he wrote a script for Beau is Afraid. It's Ty West didn't get a release date for Maxine. He just wrote it and he did it, and then they put it on the schedule. And I want more of that instead of, okay, July 4th, 2027 is this Marvel movie, and Memorial Day 2027 is this Star Wars. It's just like, come on, make your movies, make the quality, and then pick a release date.
Right. I guess the problem though is the casual fan's never going to go to an Ari Aster movie.
No, I'm just saying, yeah.
That's why it's. But I wish Sean would have led with the strike stuff because that makes the most sense. I do think it's going to turn back around, but it's never going to turn back around as big as it used to be. It's always going to get a little less and less.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, hopefully studios are smart enough to realize they can't afford to go on a strike again because with the way technology is advancing and the way people can steal movies and that's 100% what it is. The fact that you don't have a massive blockbuster ready to come out. Furiosa was pretty much done before the strike. It was at that point, I think they were just putting it together in the, post-production. So that makes a ton of sense. And then with just the way technology is advancing, they need to lean into it and accept it and find a way to get your casual fan back.
The thing is very easy. It's a very easy answer, and it's the studios that are killing theatrical, plain and simple. They're killing their own golden goose. I mean, because the options that you have now, because every movie studio has their own streaming service, you have the entire history of film versus what is opening this weekend in a movie theater. So I can watch the movie that I've loved my entire life a dozen times in a single day on my TV at home, or I can go see this movie I've never seen before and that I'm suspicious of.
Yeah.
Like it's the entirety of film history versus whatever is opening that weekend.
Well, and that brings up a good point though too. Is they have their streaming services.
Mhm.
What if they all got together and kind of placed a moratorium on day and date kind of stuff, or it's not, we're not in the height of COVID anymore. I think that that definitely shifted things. But if studios got together and said, you know what, we're going to use our streaming services that we already own to advertise these movies that are going to be in the theater, but we are not going to say they'll be out in 3 weeks on streaming. We are going to say 6 months from now it might be on streaming, and see if we can't turn that business model around a little bit, get butts in the seats, and then do a special edition or something in 6 months or whatever.
But what's your real money maker though? What is the money maker for you? That percentage of ticket price you're getting in a movie theater, or the subscription price that somebody is paying you to watch your streaming service? How do you determine which revenue source is better for you?
That's one of the things though that people have been talking about with Netflix. It used to be you would get people to subscribe to Netflix when they would get a big movie on there. And then it started to be, they would release it only on Netflix. They would make their own content. And then subscriptions have started to kind of like balance out. For like Disney Plus is only doing TV at this point. They're not making movies for Disney Plus anymore or releasing them day and date the way they used to during the height of COVID. And notice I'm not saying during COVID because COVID still happens. But is that still a factor? Are people like, I don't want to go to a theater and sit around a bunch of sick people? Unless you're that creepy guy who sits next to somebody on the, seats. But is it? Yeah, your profit is probably more driven by your streaming content, but are people actually going to subscribe to Amazon Prime just to see the Fall Guy? No. And I think a lot of the reason that they rush them to streaming now is because if it doesn't make $30 million on its first day, people on the internet are saying it's a flop.
Yeah, so I mean, it comes down to you have business people running it and not creative people running it. You have your studios like A24 that actually care, and they would they make the effort. They're not trying to be Paramount or Disney or whatever else. They're just trying to be themselves, and they're successful with what they do. But say they agreed to what you're saying, and they hold on to the movies and they don't release them to streaming after for like 3 months or 6 months or whatever. All it takes is one guy breaking that, and it'd be very easy to break. You have one failure in the theater, and your job's on the line, so you panic and you make this move. I mean, you're never going to not have that at the studio level, and it's a shame, but I don't know.
This is what's pissing me off is this is truly the result of Wall Street. This is truly the result of a Wall Street mentality where somebody has convinced someone that growth must be constant, and if you don't grow, it's failure. And I'm sorry, but the world, the economy is not a perpetual motion machine. It's not something that can sustain itself constantly. There are ups and downs, and there's not always growth. And these guys come into these creative fields and these creative businesses and think that they can do something that is going to constantly make the same amount of money or more money every year. It's got to make more money. It made this much last year. It's got to make more money this year. That's an insane way to approach running a business. It just doesn't work like that. No business is going to make more money every year that it exists. I mean, that's just insane.
Well, I mean, David Zaslav he's the poster boy for that. Constantly scrapping stuff because of taxes. And, we can make more money if we put this movie on a shelf. Fucking Michael Keaton as Batman in a Batgirl movie got scrapped because of taxes. I mean, make that make sense.
That's the kind of decision that a hedge fund manager makes. Like that's the kind of decision that a Wall Street guy makes. It's a kind of bullshit decision like that. It's just it's so ridiculous. And then they look at a failure and they go, "Well, what? How can we fix this?" Well, they're not interested in actually fixing the problem. What they need to do is make it look good on a spreadsheet the next year. So if I fire a bunch of people and I cancel a bunch of productions, then we don't spend that money and the profits that we make next year look bigger. And thus we've fulfilled our idea that we've grown, even though we didn't actually make more money.
While wringing all these IPs dry. I mean, they're running out of ideas. And I mean,
they're
making a new Monsters. What does that tell you?
Right. They literally just rebooted The Strangers, and it was 10 years ago. You know, like 5 years ago was the sequel, and now they're rebooting it and making a whole new remake. It's death.
Also, Kevin, when was the last time we created a new star? I know they're trying to create Glenn Powell right now, but like Hollywood doesn't create stars anymore because it's too expensive to have a star who is so big that you have to pay them to actually be in your movie. Like they got out of business. They got out of the business of making people as big as Tom Cruise because they don't want to pay a $25 million paycheck to anybody. But the fact of the matter is, when you look back in the day, I mean, that even that weekend I put it out 13 years ago, we're talking about Chris Pine, we're talking about Vin Diesel, we're talking about movie stars that people wanted to see.
But you're also talking about IPs that haven't been wrung dry yet. You know, that were, you know, Fast was kind of at the height of where, or it was it was still early enough on. Star Trek was still kind of new. The Hangover was kind of on the way out, but these were IPs that were a little bit more fresh. They're still making Fast movies, you know, and they're just going to get less and less. And, I mean, you look at, the Marvel movies just alone, they're not going to go back and touch the box office that they had the first up until whatever the Infinity War, whatever the hell the last one was that really made a lot of money. It's never going to touch that again, unless they start over. And at that point, I don't know that they might have to wait a little bit before they can do that.
Well, the argument used to be these big tentpole movies are what keep theaters open. And, you know, again, I don't think Furiosa is a tentpole movie by any stretch of the imagination. I'm really curious to see what's going to happen with Deadpool and Wolverine, because Deadpool's not, you know, like super family friendly Disney Plus. So will it have to get people into the theaters to see it for a while, or are they going to just, you know, oh, we'll put it on Hulu because people can say fuck on Hulu?
Well, the amount of money they've spent marketing it too, they have a lot to make back.
Yeah.
They've already set a record for ticket sales. The highest selling first day on sale for an R-rated movie ever.
Okay.
So
I will allow it.
But I mean, to your point though,
but of course people don't go to the movies anymore.
But if you go back to the 80s and you look at the tentpole movies, eventually you had franchises, but at one point it was Raiders of the Lost Ark, it was Back to the Future, it was Top Gun, you know, it was something, Days of Thunder, whatever. I don't know why I pulled that one. Terminator.
Days of Thunder was a blockbuster.
But they were all original at one point. And we're not getting that year over year on the blockbuster level.
We're also like, if you say something like Jaws or Star Wars, movies were where you went. You didn't go to, you know, 15 different streaming services or, you know, 4,500 cable channels to see a movie. You went to the movie theater. You know, because the business is so diverse now, you know, with streaming everywhere, it's like cable TV all over again. You know, you have to have 15 different streaming services to watch the movies that you want to watch or the TV shows that you want to watch or whatever. So yeah, that's going to change. I get that, but I when Sean was just saying that Deadpool and Wolverine just broke that record, it's like, yeah, more of that, please, because that will then people go to those movies. They see the trailers for other stuff that might not be, Avatar 6 or whatever we're on, and say, oh, that looks interesting. And the smaller movies like the A24 movies or, In a Violent Nature, I'm super surprised that we got that here. That kind of stuff is the stuff that people might actually go to the theater for, because it's not gonna be streaming in 2 weeks.
Well, and back to
go ahead, Bob.
Well, back to your casual fan. There's so many people that think TV is better than movies now. There's a lot of moviegoers from 10 years ago that actually think TV is better than movies. I disagree completely. There are decent.
You mean
TV
the content?
Yeah, I still think a TV show. There's so much time. There's a lot of downtime. There's not been one series ever where there's not a little lull or something that's just kind of like they're just filling time here to make it longer. You don't have that with a good movie. I mean, you're getting it more and more with 2.5 hour movies, blockbusters even. But the good movies are as good as they've ever been. And it's just about getting that casual audience back.
That is a weird thing you mentioned there, Jeff, is that there's, I think this is just to do with the strike and the content glut. The lack of a content glut is that movies that didn't get theatrical before are getting it. Like Sting was in theaters for some bizarre reason. A movie that just was, I liked it. Giant spider movie. I enjoyed it, but I did not see that one going to movie theaters. There's a Diane Keaton movie coming out this weekend called Summer Camp that's going to be in theatrical. It shouldn't be. It's an awful fucking movie, but there's room in the theater for it, so they're putting it out theatrically. But the other part of that is that we got Late Night with the Devil in theaters because this, there was room at movie theaters, and movie theaters are going, please give us something to put on the screen. We've got 18 screens to fill. What can you give us? And that's how we end up getting, Late Night with the Devil on the big screen instead of just directly to Shudder.
Yeah, and Immaculate was being made for streaming, for Shudder too at the beginning, and then they were like, no, this there's something good about this, and it's hopefully the cream rises to the top, but. We also live in late stage capitalism, so
well, and just the generation out there, everything's very disposable. So it's you like it one day, you forget it the next.
All right, are we ready to talk about movies now?
We can start the show. That's fine.
All right, let's get into
1.
And let's get into the movie people came here to hear about, and that is Furiosa, a Mad Max saga starring Anya Taylor-Joy, Chris Hemsworth, and the story of how Furiosa became Furiosa. Of course, Furiosa, best known from Mad Max Fury Road, where the character debuted, played by Charlize Theron. How did she get to be this badass warrior? And the story is a story of revenge. She was kidnapped as a child by a group of marauders. Her mother, tried to save her, was killed by Dementis, played by Chris Hemsworth, and it set in motion this long-term revenge story where Furiosa is going to grow up and she's going to murder Dementis in the most epic fashion. I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed the action of this. I love the look. I love what George Miller does with the look of his films. It's always so unique and different. His cinematography is very unusual. His use of color is very unusual. I love his outback settings. I love the sun-baked deserts, and then you see occasionally those pops of color of green when you see greens in his movies. It's like so unique. I really enjoyed this. I actually might have enjoyed this even as much or more than I enjoyed Fury Road, and I did like Fury Road. I keep having to tell people I did like Fury Road. I think this is a little bit better just because I think Anya Taylor-Joy is really great. This movie actually slows down to tell a story, whereas Fury Road does not so much. I mean, there's a story there, but it's mostly just this, this kinetic, nonstop chase scene that's happening from beginning to end. And there's some of that in here. Like the best scene in this movie is the war rig scene where she's escaping from the Citadel, and she's got a motorcycle strapped to the bottom of the war rig, and she's under there, and then it gets attacked, and then she has to save the rig to save herself, and then she meets Praetorian Jack, Tom Burke, and they develop a relationship, and it's kind of the first time we see a little bit of more development of the Furiosa character via that relationship. And I like that little wrinkle that they bring to her. Is that a romantic relationship? Maybe, maybe not. But it's revealing something about her that we hadn't known before. And I really liked that. I really liked a lot of this movie, though. What did you think, Jeff? Your first time with the Mad Max universe.
I mean, I've seen Beyond Thunderdome because of Tina Turner when I was a kid. But I fast forwarded through a lot of it that she wasn't in. So first, let me preface this by saying I tried to watch Fury Road this weekend, about 3 times. And what you just said about it not really having a plot, but just being a long chase scene is what kind of turned me off. The visuals were beautiful, amazing, everything you can think of. I kept like scrolling on my phone because I was kind of like lost, and I was like, do I need to have seen all the other Mad Max movies to know what's going on? Visually though, stunning. I actually liked Furiosa better than Fury Road because I could follow it. It had a narrative to it that I felt like I didn't need to be like read a book beforehand to get what had happened. I did recognize, throughout the movie, some of the characters from Fury Road. And I just really appreciated the fact that there was a chapter, like the chapter breaks.
Mm-hmm.
And they were kind of like leading you down the narrative road a little more. And again, like Fury Road, gorgeous settings and really interesting set pieces. So,
Bob, you saw it. What did you think?
I absolutely loved it. I like Fury Road better. I don't need, it's an action movie. And it's what I guess in the way Star Wars does it, it's just, here's the world, here's a story within that world. And I thought the intensity and action and violence of Fury Road was just, I think it lived up to the hype. When we talked about it on the show, I hadn't seen it. So when Sean was like, it's okay, I wasn't there to defend it. But I do think it's one of the best action movies in the last 20 years, if not all time. I think it's that good. And I think Furiosa is right there with it. It makes me want to go back and try the first 3 again, at least the first 2, because I like George Miller so much. I'm wondering what I must be the one missing something, and I haven't done that yet. But it really, I just had such a good time. I could have stayed for another 2.5 hours. Just I liked being in that world. I liked everything about it. It was exciting. It was visually stunning. I mean, I don't know. I really like George Miller now because of these 2 movies. And I feel like I want to go and see more that he's done. It was just, I don't know. I loved it.
I did go back and watch The Road Warrior, and I'll say a little bit more about that in a little bit. But something I want to address with Fury Road is that I don't think Jeff, you could ever have the proper experience of Fury Road if you're not watching it on the big screen.
Yep.
When you're watching that spectacle of a chase scene from beginning to end, and it's just blowing you back in your seat where you can't move and you can't think, and it's just completely overwhelming you, then that's the experience of Fury Road does not work at home. It doesn't work if you can go do something else, because it doesn't have these engaging characters. It doesn't. It has a plot, but the plot is mostly to service the fact that we're going to just blow your mind with massive action spectacle. And without a large theater, without that sound pounding on you, and without those visuals just completely overwhelming you, you're not really seeing Fury Road.
That was definitely a thought I had while I was watching it.
Oh yeah, even when I watch it now, I think I'm still bringing so much of that experience to my viewing it again. Plus, when I do, that's when I'm really making an event of it at home with the surround sound and making sure the lights off. And it's not just something I'm putting on. I'm going out of my way to do the best I can to recreate it, and you can't. But having seen it in the theater, I'm still able to bring that experience with the viewings since then.
I returned to watching Road Warrior this week because they did it on this podcast I like, Unspooled. They were talking about the Road Warrior, the 1979 original. And and they were kind of the way they were talking about it, Paul Sheeran, Amy Nicholson, made me kind of want to take another look at it. So I did. And it's such an interesting story. The story there is about Max, who's essentially this police officer in this. It's just like immediately post World War III, like the apocalypse has only just begun. Essentially, the morals and rules and laws are only beginning to break down, and he's minding this stretch of road where there are these criminals everywhere, and the thing put in front of Max is that if he continues to do this job, he's going to become like them, where he enjoys the killing. And then the rest of the movie is about placing him in a position where he's going to have to go back to killing. And it is kind of epic, the idea that this man would love nothing more than to just quit this job and not do this and go be with his family. But he can't because because the world is getting out of control and he's starting to enjoy it. And that pull, that draw of wanting to be in the violence, but desperately not wanting to be in the violence, it's a great fucking story. And I think part of my problem was when Fury Road came out, we were still kind of fresh in how much we hate Mel Gibson.
Yeah,
I still think he's a shitty person, but getting further away from how shitty he is, I was able to kind of leave him out of the equation and actually just watch the movie, and it's a much better experience.
Well, and sometimes when you knock out 3 movies in a row like that, it does turn into work. And that's how it was for me. Now, did you see Mad Max or Road Warrior? It sounds like you're describing Mad Max.
Mad Max.
Okay,
whatever.
I thought you said the Road Warrior.
Whatever the first one is, yeah. I can't tell them apart.
Yeah, I think from what I understand, Road Warrior is when the wasteland's fully developed.
Jeff, the Road Warrior Mad Max thing is basically like Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. So
yeah. Thanks for putting it in a way I can understand it.
Yeah, but Furiosa, I think, is kind of awesome. I saw it on the IMAX, and that is certainly a great way to experience a George Miller movie, is when you're watching it on the IMAX, when you're watching with that sound, and that experience was pretty awesome.
The violence
one of the
so
things,
amazing. Go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the things that kind of took me out a little bit, what had to do with Chris Hemsworth. One, that ridiculous rubber nose that didn't
that was
move
weird, right? That was a weird choice. It was
there was no. Yeah, I kept thinking, why does he have that? It doesn't make it. Is it to make him uglier? Because he doesn't need to be ugly. He can be attractive and be a bad guy. But some of his lines and the delivery were just Snidely Whiplash cartoon villain, to the point where it was like, is this supposed to be like a comedy now? I don't, when he's down, the second time he goes and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna get ya. Yeah, you're gonna be mine. And I'm like, what are you doing, Thor?
He's doing the most acting. He's not, it's the most. acting. It's belted to the back of the room kind of style. But that does pay off in those final scenes. That final monologue, that fucking paid off.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it just like it bugged me a couple times, and I was like, I'm gonna have to punch you in the face, Chris Hemsworth, and
in some ways,
tear that nose off.
If there wasn't as big a star playing the main bad guy, it might have been easier to stomach some of it. They did pull me out a couple times where I'm just kind of wondering, what does he have in his mouth that is making him talk that way? And but I would come and go.
Mm-hmm. I imagine he insisted on the nose. I can only speculate. I don't know, but I think as an actor, he insisted on the nose just because everything he's doing is the biggest thing he can do. And I think he probably insisted on having the nose. You know what they should have done with that nose is just take his nose off. They should have put something on it to make it look like he had no nose. That would have made that character.
Look how everybody's so into Walton Goggins again because he didn't have a nose in Fallout.
The sexiest, nosiest, noseless man alive. Anything else on Furiosa, Mad Max Saga?
I mean,
I liked it.
Yeah, it was.
You were going to say something about the violence.
Yeah,
Bob.
I think you watch a horror movie and there's always that crazy kill, and that stands out. And in this movie, that's those crazy kills times 1,000. It's constantly they're gross, but it's so fast and so much is happening and so intense that it adds to the. I don't know. It just they're being run over, they're being ripped apart by tires. It's constant, not over the top gore, but it really is very intense, violent imagery that just kind of is there. And I think it does add to the depth of the movie a little bit and to the world that surrounds it. And why I really do think, Fury Road and this are among the best action movies of all time, because I don't know, it's just so dark and gritty and intense.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like I said, the war rig scene is the best scene in the movie, and that is an exceptionally violent scene that has some just tremendously good violence. When they've got these guys coming down on these like fans, they're flying with the parachutes, and then they're getting caught in the back end of the truck and just whipped to the ground. That is cool.
Yeah.
On IMAX,
I did like how everybody just explodes. They're just a giant explosion. They're not, like just maimed.
Because everybody's covered in gas.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tremendous. There's such a world built by George Miller. It's amazing to me. All right. I did see the movie Babes. We're going to save that one for next week because we got nothing else to talk about next week.
Please,
and it
I
doesn't
would like to
fit.
see it.
It doesn't fit with what we've been talking about, because we're talking about violence, and we're going to talk about violence and death. Then you go to a movie that is about placing the audience in the perspective of being the one committing the violence. Our classic this week is Peeping Tom, Michael Powell's 1960 incredible movie that was just released on a Criterion Blu-ray and 4K for the very first time. This is one of my all-time favorite films, and so I bought that the first second that I could get it, which was like 3 months ago. I wasn't even sure it was coming. I finally did, and I got it, and I watched it, every inch of it. This movie is incredible, and it opens on this incredible scene of this man approaching a sex worker carrying a camera. He walks up to her. She gives him the price. He follows her back to her place. He's filming her. We're watching this from the perspective of the camera, which means we're watching this entirely from his perspective. He follows her up the stairs. He then starts to assemble his killing apparatus, which is a camera affixed with a mirror. And The tripod is the knife, and he's going to stab her and kill her and make her watch as he kills her and capture that image on his camera. And it is so shocking and so fascinating. And this movie made people so uncomfortable in 1960 that they banned the movie. They banned it because they were so uncomfortable with the idea that this movie is essentially calling you out for, watching murder in movies. I mean, it's essentially making you the murderer. It's making you complicit in someone's death. Your identifying character here is the guy who's doing the killing and not the victim. And at 1960, especially, this was not something that had been done before. And really, truly, it's such a shock, and it's such an incredible thing. And Michael Powell is just one of the greatest directors to ever live. Of course, he directed alongside his partner Pressburger, Powell and Pressburger. They made The Red Shoes. They made Tales of Hoffman. Just these incredible, epic, like movies that were like one's a ballet and one's an opera. That tells you like the grand ambition that these guys work with. And here he's working in this seedy, ugly genre of the horror thriller, and he does it better than anybody because he's just that good. Carl Baum is the star here. He is Mark. He is the killer who, influenced by a troubled childhood, begins this murder spree where he's trying to capture the ultimate face of fear. And only he seems to know why. He's such an incredible character. He just the various little things that Carl Baum does with his face that will make him at one moment this anxious, quiet, nerdy guy, and then this other one that makes him just this malevolent force. The confidence that he gains just from one scene to the next. He's in his apartment with the girl that he's just met and is very attracted to and kind of wants to have a relationship with. And then the second he draws her into his screening room, his cinema, as she calls it, he gains this new confidence. Suddenly you can hear his voice. He's loud. He's able to speak to her, and he's confident because he's in his element. The subtle little things that he does with his voice, the subtle things that he does with his face, it's a really incredible performance. But everything about this movie is incredible. I mean, I could go on for hours talking about why I love Peeping Tom. But Jeff, tell us about your experience of Peeping Tom.
This was my second time watching it. I watched it several years ago because I had heard about it. It's name dropped in Scream 4 and a bunch of other stuff. And in a way, it reminded me of Psycho.
It's literally been called England's Psycho.
Yeah, but without knowing any of that, the first time I saw it, I was like, this reminds me of Psycho, in that you've got this guy he lives to kill women, and he's only comfortable when he's in a different identity. He's only comfortable when he's behind the camera as the photographer. When he's just him, he seems to have a little more going for him. But the camera is what really turns him into the psychopath. And the fact that he was watched his entire life by his father, and that's how he views the world, is through a camera, and then makes you complicit in it, is what really got me.
And you mentioned the Psycho thing also with his dad. His dad is essentially, much like Mother Bates, is kind of hovering over his entire life, even though he's been dead for some time. His voice is still there. He's still, you can hear his voice in all of the childhood stuff. His books are everywhere. The specter of Mark's dad is there at all times, just like Mother Bates was. Only Mother Bates, her actual skeleton is there. Bob, you've seen Peeping Tom, right?
Oh yeah, this is maybe the third or fourth time it's been featured. I know it's probably the second time it's been the classic. One of the best of all time. It's one of those movies that you can tell your friend about, and even if they're a casual moviegoer, like I've mentioned earlier, this is going to hold up, even though it's from 1960. It's not going to be homework. They might think it's going to be going in, but it's just so. I just, when you look back at these movies, the originality is just so fantastic, and I think you can watch it today and like it as much as any other movie that's out there. I mean, it really is one of the best of all time.
It's so incredible, and I just love the fact that movie going. When we talk about going to the movies, and we talk about one thing we never talk about is kind of the morality of watching someone die in a movie, and our that removal that we have from this, because obviously it's not a real death. These people aren't really dying. That removal is already there, but then there's the other step back, that God's eye view as it's happening, that also gives us that step of removal from what is happening. And when you place the camera in the perspective of the killer, and you place the audience in the perspective of the killer in the way that this movie does, it is essentially you're pointing at the audience, going, "You're a peeping Tom. You're the voyeur. You're the killer here." And the reason this person is dying is to entertain you. And that is a subversive idea.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then go ahead.
No, I was just saying the death as entertainment has. I mean, this is just another removal from, the days when they would put people in the arena with lions and shit.
But
watch.
And we go back to, like, say Columbine, when all of a sudden, like, that's kind of what's been, whenever something like that happens, it becomes a massive news story. And whether we want to admit it or not, the audience is watching it almost for entertainment purposes. The way they're presenting it on the screen for a lot of the news media is kind of creepy. I thought the movie Civil War did a pretty good job of showing that and how these people hide behind the cameras. But this movie, I think playing today, even beyond movies, is very relevant right now.
No doubt about it. And the and at the time, people were watching this and not, they just didn't react well to being told that they are essentially the killer, that they're when you go to this movie, when you go to any movie that has a death in it, that death is happening because you're there. Essentially, it's like, it's Schrodinger's death. It's like, it's the movie. If the movie doesn't exist, this death doesn't happen if you're not there to watch it.
What's the movie where, like, 3/4 of the way through they break the fourth wall and just start, like, the main character starts talking to the audience about how this is all your fault for watching?
Oh God!
Like Fair Game or something like that, or
there was something like that. I'm not sure exactly what it was. I know what you're talking about.
It's kind of a little arrogant. I thought Peeping Tom did a way better job of doing it. But I mean, again, this is such a relevant movie, and not only that, it's easy to watch.
A blunt force. Yeah, that's like a blunt force way of doing it. That's like a hammer to the head. Whereas this this puts the thought in your head. This is the one where it's implicating you in a way that you can't escape.
But at the same time, you can watch it and not know it. If you're not, if you're too oblivious, you could still enjoy the movie and totally be oblivious to that while watching it.
Jeff, did you have a thought?
Murder as entertainment, like I said, has gone, throughout human history, but now we can watch it in the comfort of our own home and not feel as bad about it, because everybody's like an armchair detective if they're watching ID or Dateline or something like that. They're like, oh, I knew it was the husband or whatever. And murdertainment has gone from movies like this to true crime. It's really just kind of I'm sure, it's never going to not be entertainment for horror movies, but I feel like we'll go, in cycles where it'll be a little less popular as true crime and end up being just a purview of the movies again sooner rather than later. And then come back again, and when the next true crime podcast comes out that everybody is obsessed with.
People forget just how like this movie it disappeared for a while, but people like Martin Scorsese helped bring it back. But it was even influential just years later. Like in your favorite movie, Jeff, Black Christmas, the perspective of the killer is something that pops up in that movie, placing the audience in the perspective of the person who is watching and then will eventually do the killing.
Yep.
I'm not even sure. I can't say that Peeping Tom is the first movie to do that, but it definitely is among the first movies to do that. It was that idea that that you're the killer. You are in their perspective. And people don't like being in that perspective. It makes people very uncomfortable to be in that first person perspective of the killer. And that this character is so complicated, and that Mark is a complicated character that under, if he weren't actually a murderer, you could feel for this guy. He does have sort of this handsome innocence to him that obviously the is it Anna Massey, I think it is, she finds just so appealing about him, as he does seem so handsome and innocent and shy, that she really feels for him, and she can sense that he's in this sort of existential pain at all times that she would like to help do something about. What she doesn't know is that he's expressing that existential pain by fucking killing people.
Yeah, I this is highly recommended. And if anybody wants to buy me the Criterion Collection Blu-ray, feel free. Well, you just reach out and I'll tell you where to bring it.
$53 with shipping.
This is definitely one of my favorite finds that we've had on the podcast since the beginning.
And we'll do it again as a classic next year. Just to
Why not?
All right, yeah, get it, get this, see this movie, watch this movie, own this movie, support Criterion and all that they do to continue to provide movies we can actually watch that they can't take away from us.
Mm-hmm.
All right, quickly, let's do some flick chart. What do you think?
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
The Marvels or Phantasm 2?
The Marvels.
I haven't seen it.
Phantasm is great. Phantasm 2 is a big step down for me.
Yeah, it's The Marvels. It's a good movie. When are they reboot? When is the Phantasm reboot, Jeff?
You know what? I don't know. I mean, they've been making sequels for years. Now that Angus Scrimm is gone, I mean that I think the only thing they would have to do is reboot it if they do anything else with it. So, but you know what?
It's coming.
We don't need more Phantasm movies.
It's going to happen. Somebody owns that IP. Somebody's turning that around soon. Guarantee it. Lawnmower Man or American Splendor?
Oh God, American Splendor.
Yeah.
Lawnmower Man is horrible.
Lawnmower Man, it's absolute garbage.
Possibly the worst Stephen King adaptation out there.
Crocodile Dundee 2 or Krampus?
Krampus.
Yeah. Even I would have to say that. Oh, man. After Earth or Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade? Fuck me.
Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I'll go Indiana Jones. I know that it's painful for Sean, but
it is. But yeah.
He'll get over it.
Step Brothers or a movie people have actually seen. Nope, no one's seen that. Step Brothers or Power Rangers 2017?
Was that the
I have not seen either one of those movies.
Was that the one with Elizabeth Banks? We kind of liked it.
It wasn't bad, yeah.
I mean, I'd probably rather watch that. I guess that shocked me more than Step Brothers did. The bar was a little, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just the fact that I was surprised I liked it versus I knew what Step Brothers was. It was exactly what it said it was going to be, and not that hard to accomplish that. So the fact that Power Rangers shocked me and was decent, I'll go with Power Rangers.
Yeah, Step Brothers is one of the most obnoxious movies ever made. I'm actually going to pick Power Rangers too, Jeff.
Like I said, I have not seen either one of them.
All right.
So Whatever you guys say.
Hard to believe if Power Rangers wins. Fahrenheit 9/11 or But I'm a Cheerleader.
Oh, ugh. But I'm a cheerleader for the simple fact that Fahrenheit 9/11 being a documentary is scarier than anything else.
Bob?
Yeah, I agree.
All right. I went with Fahrenheit.
I mean, I like I don't know. Fahrenheit I'm torn on because it, in some ways, it was more harmful than good. It rallied the other side a little too much, in my opinion. But even though I agreed with most of what was in it. But go ahead.
All right. Let's see here. The Expendables.
No.
Or Porky's 2 the next day.
Porky's 2 the next day.
Porky's 2.
And that's coming from a Stallone apologist.
Let's see. 2 weeks notice with Sandra Bullock and Hugh Grant, or Leave No Trace starring Ben Foster.
Have I seen that? I don't think I've seen that.
I don't know if I've seen 2 weeks notice. I haven't seen the other one.
Leave No Trace is way better.
Okay, you can have it.
Okay.
300 Rise of an Empire or Single White Female.
Single white female.
Definitely. Way better. Way better movie.
I saw that movie 3 times in the theater.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that movie.
All right. My flick chart sucks. Let's see, because I can't seem to get a pair of movies that I know everybody has seen. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Zombieland Double Tap or The Big Chill.
Oh.
I know you didn't
Which
like Zombieland.
Flavor garbage do you prefer?
If you'd asked me 25 years ago, like if this was I would have picked The Big Chill, but yeah, I don't even like that movie anymore. I'm gonna say Zombieland. It was, yeah.
I probably wouldn't watch either one, but if I had to, it'd be Zombieland.
I would pick Big Chill because I really hate Zombieland Double Tap.
I remember.
Paranormal Activity or American Movie?
First Paranormal Activity?
Yes.
I'm going to say that. It was so different.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to go American Movie because there was one part that pulled me out of Paranormal Activity, but overall, I liked the idea of what it was, and I thought it was kind of a creative, neat thing that's now been done to death. So I'll make Sean break the tie.
Oh, it's easy for me. It's American Movie. I think that's one of the most innovative and unique documentaries ever made.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Shazam! Fury of the Gods or All That Jazz?
All That Jazz.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why I just find that I find it humorous. I don't know why that combination of movies is just so strange. It tickles me.
I just sit here and think about I know we don't have casual fans listening to us, but like
right.
300 and Step Brothers movies that are losing that would win most competitions.
All right. No Strings Attached or Bull Durham?
Bull Durham.
Bull Durham.
Yeah, it's Bull Durham. Easy. Let's see. If Beale Street Could Talk or The Perfect Score starring Scarlett Johansson and Chris Evans?
If Beale Street Could Talk.
Yeah, I agree.
Beale Street is one of the most underrated movies of the last decade.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. This is going to be tough for you, Bob. Really, this is going to be a difficult choice. Rocky or Madagascar 3, Europe's Most Wanted?
They're going to be like, Rocky or The Devil's Rejects? Rocky.
Along Came Polly or Godzilla, the original 1954?
Godzilla.
Yeah. That one wasn't hard.
No.
I don't think anybody's seen either of these.
I still haven't seen that Godzilla that got nominated for an Oscar.
Oh, you got to see that.
I know.
Yeah, that one is. Ooh, that is a great
Fantastic.
movie.
Really fantastic.
Sorry, it's having a hard time finding movies people have actually seen.
Oh, I've been there. I'm glad you're controlling it now.
Fantastic Four 2005 or Fan Forced It.
Freaky Friday 2003 or Die Hard.
Die Hard.
Yeah. We mentioned it earlier. Star Trek Into Darkness or A Life Less Ordinary.
I know I've seen A Life Less Ordinary. Which one is that?
I don't remember.
Ewan McGregor and Cameron Diaz.
Oh, Star Trek Into Darkness.
Yeah. The fact that I don't remember that one.
Okay, let's see here. Come on. It's ridiculous. No.
No.
Nope, not that one either. Hannibal Rising or Mortal Kombat 2021.
Oh.
Don't we like Mortal Kombat?
I kind of did, I think. I know I liked it more than Hannibal Rising.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, that's fine. I didn't like Hannibal Rising, and I never saw Mortal Kombat, but I can't imagine it would be any worse.
Copycat, starring Sigourney Weaver, or Virgin Spring.
Oh, I fucking love Copycat. I love that movie so much. It is so over the top. But Virgin Spring is a much better movie, but I mean, it's, just like a classic, but oh, fuck.
That's the first time
I don't
think we've ever had Copycat as one of the choices before.
No, I don't think so either.
We got to do that sometime. Harry Connick Jr. You got to send me some of your squirrel covers, dog. I mean, come on. Who the fuck ever said squirrel covers before Harry Connick Jr.?
Jungle Cruise or Just Like Heaven with Mark Ruffalo and Reese Witherspoon.
Just like Heaven? I don't know.
Yeah, it's Just Like Heaven. Jungle Cruise isn't very good. Oh my God, give me something I can work with, for fuck's sake. No. Fucking you. This flick chart has grown fucking useless. Boondock Saints or The Tragedy of Macbeth with Denzel Washington.
The Tragedy
of Macbeth.
Yeah. Fuck Boondock Saints.
Again, another movie that would probably win by most people's standards.
I'm glad to not be most people in that case.
Yes, I hate that movie.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, this is a good one. This is hard. Half Nelson with Ryan Gosling or Gods and Monsters with Brendan Fraser.
Gods and Monsters.
God, I don't know. I'll say Half Nelson just to let you decide.
Yeah, I'm going Half Nelson, actually. I really love that Ryan Gosling performance. I think that movie's incredibly underrated, and I need to see Gods and Monsters again sometime soon. Captain America 1990. Anybody else see that one?
Brown. The one with Red Brown.
Yeah. Or Speed 2 Cruise Control.
Oh. Okay, this is the only time I'm going to pick this movie, I think.
Actually, I think this is the Captain America with J.D. Salinger's kid in the lead.
Oh, okay. I'm going to pick Speed 2. It's got Sandra Bullock and it doesn't have That horrible spandex suit.
I don't know. I'll go Captain America only because Speed 2 was so horribly bad after Speed was so amazing.
Yeah, I got to go Captain America. This particular Captain America is hilariously bad. It's so much fun to watch and make fun of.
And Speed 2 is disappointingly bad.
Yeah. Coneheads or Toy Soldiers, 1984.
Coneheads? I don't remember Toy
Coneheads is pretty
Soldiers.
bad, but Coneheads is pretty bad, but I'll pick that because at
All right.
least our generation gets it.
I picked Toy Soldiers. I really, really, really hate Coneheads now. After we did it on the podcast, on the 93 podcast last year, it was miserable.
Didn't you used to like that movie?
I did. I really did.
That was the only reason I picked it, is because you liked it and I don't remember Toy Soldiers.
My cousin's kids were talking about how their aunt told them that if they wanted to watch the funniest movie ever made, they should watch Coneheads. And I was just like, I gotta have a talk with my cousin, because that is bad advice.
For some reason, Flickchart would like us to talk about the 2003 Freaky Friday again, putting it up against The Fabelmans, Steven Spielberg's movie.
Freaky Friday.
Yeah, Freaky Friday.
Really?
Fabelmans doesn't have Jamie Lee Curtis or Lindsay Lohan.
I like Freaky Friday.
I didn't like The Fabelmans all that much, but I think it's better than Freaky Friday, but you guys win, so.
Again, it's always, for me, it's the bar. Freaky Friday's bar is a little, or just shocked me. I was not expecting to like that movie. And with Spielberg, he's trying to, I don't know, it just didn't live up to what I wanted it to be.
The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug, or Don John.
Don John.
All the way. Hard to believe those movies came out in the same year, 2013. Isn't that right? Isn't that crazy?
Now we were doing the podcast.
What the fuck is going on? Power Rangers, 2017, or All the President's Men?
Well, All the President's Men.
Yeah. All the President's Men, that's the sequel to The Post, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
I mean, if you're watching them chronologically,
yes,
then yes.
Well, let's see here. I gotta get one good one out of this. Is there gonna be one good one out of this? I don't know. The Sisters Brothers or A Fish Called Wanda?
I've never heard of the Sisters Brothers.
Neither have I.
We did it on the show, Bob. John C. Reilly, Joaquin Phoenix in the West. No,
in the West. I'm sure. I just don't remember it.
I think Flickchart is broken. I think we broke Flickchart. I think that's what happened. Is we've broken Flickchart.
My fault. Sorry.
I don't think there's any movies left. I can't get one usable. For fuck's sake. You can't get one usable comparison here that all three of us have actually seen. It is shocking. This is the saddest Flickchart ever. This is the end. This is the end of Flickchart. Flickchart is over now because we've done everything. We've done all the movies now.
We could put Peeping Tom through it.
This is it. This is the last one right here. Final Destination or The Mighty Ducks?
Oh my God. Final Destination.
I'm going to go Mighty Ducks.
Ugh.
I don't like Final Destination at all.
I hate you, Bob. Get off the fucking show.
Okay.
It's Final Destination for me.
That's whenever somebody I know is flying, I tell them, "Oh, are you gonna watch Final Destination for the in-flight movie? And they're like, no, is it good? I'm like, yeah, you totally should watch it before you go.
I will say this, and I'm not sure which Final Destination sequel it is, but there's a moment in one of those Final Destination movies where it's a log truck, and ever since I saw
That's
that,
part 2.
I can't be behind a log truck. I have to get away from it as far as I possibly can.
That is the major calamity in 2.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it was effective because every time I see a log truck, I'm like, nope, got to get over, got to go around it, got to get away from it as far as I can.
It's actually a meme now. It's like they show a picture of one and they're like, there's a certain generation of moviegoers who is completely triggered by this. And yes,
It's me.
we are.
All right, guys. Well, Jeff, I know I'll talk to you next week. Bob, we'll see you soon, hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm trying to come up with a classic. I gotta watch this one movie before I subject either one of you guys to it. So
we will be talking about Babes with Alana Glazer next week, directed by Pamela Adlon. We also have Summer Camp starring Diane Keaton, Kathy Bates, and
no,
Alfred
we're not
Woodard.
talking about that.
I watched that fucking thing. We're talking about it. God damn it. Gonna continue my streak of hating Diane Keaton even more than I hate Gerard Butler.
Have they ever made a movie together?
Can you imagine it?
I can't even.
They played lovers.
Oh God! Could you just cinema ends if Adam Sandler, Gerard Butler, and Diane Keaton are in the same place at the same time.
Those are like the casual moviegoer, like A-listers. So that's what people love.
And that's why
It's
theatrical
true.
is dead.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. That's
we also have In a Violent Nature.
Yes, In a Violent Nature, which I'm going to go watch right now. Have a good night, guys.
Night.
See ya.